Hi, this is my attempt to start convincing you to use Svelte instead of React. I'll run through my reasoning first, and then we'll go through live coding to just explain some syntax of Svelte to help you to get started with Svelte. Just enough for you to start, and then I'll compare this code with React so that you can see the difference and why I say so. Now, a bit of background, I've been in teams where I've worked with junior and junior dev, and most of the devs are backend. Svelte is the turning point I found for all levels of devs to start contributing to the front end. And because the code is a lot readable than a React code, which we'll see later in our live coding, it's so easy for a backend dev to start working in the front end. And it's a lot of the reasoning here is not just for developer productivity, it affects the cost saving too. Cost saving in terms of like how long we need to build a feature, development also, because it's a lot easy to deploy or build a Svelte app. And there's less risk for developers to shoot yourself in the foot. What I mean is, this is a typical code of a React project. You will have a lot of use state hooks in React, and I'll show you a code that I have actually, like here. This is a very typical production code of React where you have a lot of use effect too. And this kind of patterns is very dangerous because if you have too many use effect, you actually lost track like which is affecting which, like this use effect depends on this, but if you didn't add like things that should affect this, you will find into bugs. And worst case, if some of the effect are like affecting each other, you'll get into a problem later. Like, so there's a lot more risk in React because of the hooks, I would say. And it supports all these things. So I'm using Svelte for building like static sites, websites, landing pages, spa apps, server-side rendering, everything. So there's two misconceptions about React. Some people say React ecosystem is larger. This is referring to this. Like let's say you need to use Chart.js, which is a charting library. In React, you have to find the React specific library. So you have to find like React dash something. But in Svelte, well, by the way, Chart.js is a charting library and you can actually just do this, but you cannot do it in React. But in Svelte, you can actually just install this and you can use it in Svelte. So this is actually wrong because Svelte supports any JavaScript library. You don't have to find the Svelte specific library. So Svelte is only good. The other misconception is Svelte is only good for small apps. This is also wrong because most of them are saying because they feel comfortable with React, and well, React being taking up more than like 50% of the job market, you will find more people doing React than Svelte. But this is actually wrong. Like if you're focused, if you value developer productivity and all this like cost saving, you will start to appreciate Svelte a bit more. And I've been using Svelte for more than 4 years for a lot of projects, and today we have like big companies starting to use Svelte. I can show you like Apple Music, podcast. If you search in the inspector and search Svelte, you will see that Svelte is being used. Also like IKEA, if you find Svelte, they are using Svelte here. Now these are like complicated apps, e-commerce, and you have things like this. So why are big companies using this but it's still not popular? Again, the whole market is very dominated by React. It's really hard to, it takes a long time to migrate a huge app like IKEA from React ecosystem or Angular into Svelte. That's why it will take some time. But if you use it from start, like if you're building new things, I would highly recommend to start using Svelte because of the reasons that I just outlined. Now, let me just jump into the live coding app, and then we'll start to appreciate this Svelte. So what I'm trying to do here is a simple counter app where whenever I click on increment and decrement, this number will change. I can also like set a starting count, which will start the count here with 50, and then I can add increment by 1 and 51 and 52. There's also, I try to make this a bit like not too simple. I want to show you the available syntax in Svelte. So I have like a click history where we want to like track the timestamp of every time you click this, right? So without going through the how to set up this, but it's very easy. You have to pnpx Svelte init. But this is a typical Svelte code. The above part here is the script, and anything below the script is HTML code. So if you have worked with Vue framework, it's also something like this. So what's the benefit of this? It's very, very clear like which is HTML code and JavaScript code, which is why I said backend dev is a lot easy to contribute. Even though they don't understand like HTML, and as you can see here, all these are tailwind classes, which is what AI will usually give you. It will work in Svelte too. So if a backend dev doesn't understand like the HTML here this part, just by looking at the script here, they already know what to do, and everything here is really like 90% it's JavaScript, right? So let me start coding first. So first thing, this part here, I want to use the count. So in the code here is 0, right? So I want to use this. So all you have to do to use a variable in Svelte is just having this bracket, and now you have the 0 here. Now I can change this to 5, right? And then this will be 5. Now if you notice, the time to refresh is very fast. This is very true if you have like, if you actually do with production app, the hot refresh for React will take a few seconds, but Svelte is usually a lot faster. So let me change this to 0 again. Now what I want to do is, when I increment or decrement, I want to call this function to increase by 1 and -1. Now so a backend dev will come in here, and or you can just use AI autocomplete. It will probably be accurate, and there you go. So it's gonna be increasing the count, right? And I'm gonna also console log here, just to show you like the things being changed here. Alright, now I'm gonna click increment. This is 1 right now, this is 2 right now, and this is 3 right now. Right. You will notice that this is updating, but actually, in fact, you actually should use state. So this is like a proper way to say like, okay, this is gonna be a thing that will change. So anytime this count change, this will be any UI that depends on that, you have to update. So this is the correct way of doing that. Now, as you can see, Svelte has some like protection in case you do something wrong. They will try to like think, okay, you probably want this, so they will try to do that instead. But they will give some warning if you have like the ESLint enabled. They will tell you like, hey, this count is being updated. I think you should use state. So this is like less risk for you to shoot yourself in the foot. So this is working. Now what if I want to like set the starting count as 50? So I assume like this will change to 50, right? Now to do that, I have this input here, which is plain HTML input. The way to do that in Svelte is this bind, and then semicolon, and then with the count. So what will happen right now is I will do the starting count as 50, and you can see this is updated, and then I can start incrementing this. It's just as simple as that. Now let's go on to the history. So what I want is I just want to log the timestamp to history. So this is supposed to be a list, right? And I'm gonna not use the state first. I think this will prove the point. And JavaScript, plain JavaScript code, what will happen is you can do that, which is what my autocomplete does. but you don't have to do that. You just have to do push and then count. No, sorry, I need to do the new date, right? So that it logs the date. Now, in svelte, this is how you do a loop. Each history as history, and then because history is a date, right? So I am going to make it nice. So looking, right? As you can see, let's pause here and then see. Like, I know we are scattering a bit of svelte syntax here, but it still looks very readable. Like, the problem with React is if you try to copy a JSX code and try to make it the HTML, right? You're gonna get a lot of errors because of how JSX is being. But this, if I just copy this and probably I just delete, I need to recode this line in other frameworks. This is very portable, what I'm trying to say. So I have the code already. Now let me increment, and you will notice that the histories are not showing. Now the reason is because you have to add a state, and by having a state, you are actually telling the svelte that hey, anytime this updates, you have to update the UI anywhere that is depending on this. Now let's come back to here, and as you can see now, it's incrementing. There's also another syntax that I want to show you is let's say I need to show a value of total histories. So what is it? It's actually the length of the histories, right? So what I can do, actually I don't need to do that. I can just do the history length here. Let me just show you what I'm trying to do. So the histories, and then I'll do histories is the race length, right? So what I can get is this. But what if I want to have it like a variable so that I can use it in any part of the code? So there's another syntax called derive, and then it's simply actually I don't like this. Right, so here I can do the histories. Oh no, sorry, total histories. And then maybe I'll just console log here just to show you that the reason why we want to use derive sometimes is because you want to use that variables somewhere in your app. Sorry, I think I need this. Yeah, that's the correct syntax. Now, just 1 second. I think this is correct. Right? Yeah, this is correct. Right. So when I increment this, you can see this is correct, and then this is the total length. Like even I decrease is going to be 8 because that's the total histories, and that's the syntax of derive. There's a lot of like syntax here, but I'm not going to go through too much. For example, if is simply like this, if history equals to today, something like that. You can do things like this, right? Yeah, so that is pretty much that, and let me show you the React equivalent of this kind of code. So I have the code here that is using React. What you have to do is you have to use the hooks of use state, and then here you need the function. You can see it's a bit not JavaScript. Like you have to always call sets count because of this. And in React, you have to use this kind of spread operator. The reason is because you cannot use a push in the React like JavaScript, is because a spread operator is you will trigger a rebuild of the history that will trigger the reactivity. So if you notice in React, if you try to use dot push for array, your UI will not update. So you always do this, and that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of these things, it's gonna shoot you in the foot over time, especially in the larger app. But let's just pause here and then let's see the overall code of this JSX. Someone who have not done any React, you will notice that everything here is a function call, and then where's your HTML? Your HTML is somewhere here. Right, only this part it looks like HTML. And that's the problem. Like if you have, I'll show you the other function. Like here, this is a production app also for React. As you can see, you have a lot of functions, you have a lot of HTML being scattered everywhere. So over time, like if this is a huge app, this is 1,000 lines of code, pretty huge. It gets a bit hard to manage. You have HTML being scattered in this function and that function, and that's gonna be very hard to maintain. But let's come back to this React code, and you can see things like a lot of the syntax is pretty same with Svelte. So for a React dev to go to Svelte, it's not that hard to. It's actually gonna be a lot simpler. So in React, you have to use like on the value, and then you have to do on change. You can do similar like this in Svelte, but most of the time you just do a bind value to the count, and then they know like this count is gonna depend on this, and any changes I need to show it here. So you don't have to do this. On click is pretty similar, and then this part here is the loop. Now this is a very simple loop, but just imagine if this is a long, like you have to do a lot of logic in this loop here, and it gets very long, right? So this versus this kind of syntax, I would say like this is more readable than React. Yeah. So that is pretty much a very beginner look and my reasoning of why we should use Svelte. Now do not worry, I will support anything that relates to Svelte. I can answer most of the things. All I need is like everyone to probably say yes, we would like to try Svelte because of because you see the benefit of Svelte, and then I will support everyone here.